Hey guys, what's up? We are talking about more player races today, and that player race is a half-orc. Now, orcs are typically randy and create many crossbreeds, most of the offspring of such being typically orcish. However, some 1/10 of orc-human mongrels are sufficiently non-orcish to pass for human. Complete details of orcs and crossbreeds will be found under the heading of orc in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual, as it is assumed that player characters which are half-orc race are within the superior 10%, they have certain advantages. A half-orc character can become a cleric, maximum of 4th level, a fighter, maximum of 10th level, a thief, maximum of 8th level, or an assassin. It is also possible for a half-orc character to operate in 2 classes at the same time: cleric fighter, cleric thief, cleric assassin, fighter thief, or fighter assassin. When playing a multi-class character, the half-orc must abide by the restrictions of the least favorable class, with regard only to armor. All earned experience is always divided equally between the player's 2 classes, even though the character might no longer be able to progress upwards in level in one of the 2 classes, which is standard in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Half-orc characters are able to speak the common tongue of humanity, their alignment language, and orcish as well. These characters are able to learn a maximum of 2 additional languages. Half-orcs have infravision, so that they can detect varying degrees of heat radiation up to 60 feet distant in the dark. As has been shown before, half-orc characters have bonuses of +1 to both their strength and constitution scores when initially rolled, but they also must subtract a charisma penalty of -2. Typical behavior of half-orcs are that they are rude, crude, crass, and generally obnoxious. Because most are cowardly, they tend to be bullies and cruel to the weak, but they will quickly knuckle under to the stronger. This does not mean that all half-orcs are horrid, only most of them. It neither means that they are necessarily stupid nor incapable. They will always seek to gain the upper hand and dominate those around them, so as to be able to exercise their natural tendencies. Half-orcs are greedy. They can, of course, favor their human parent more than their orcish one. Half-orcs feel emotion powerfully. Rage doesn't just quicken their pulse, it makes their bodies burn. An insult stings like acid, and sadness saps their strength. But they laugh loudly and heartily, and simple bodily pleasures, feasting, drinking, wrestling, drumming, and wild dancing, fill their hearts with joy. They tend to be short-tempered and sometimes sullen, more inclined to action than contemplation, and to fighting than arguing. Most accomplished half-orcs are those with enough self-control to get by in a civilized land. Now, to understand what a half-orc is, we have to look at their parentage, which is an orc. The word orc appears in Old English, alluding to a demon or an ogre. About 800 AD, and in the compound word orcneus, which means monsters, in the poem Beowulf. As with the Italian orco, or ogre, and the word ogre itself, it ultimately derives from the Latin orcus, a god of the underworld. The Old English creatures were most likely the inspiration for the orcs that appear in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien began the modern use of the English term orc to denote a race of evil, humanoid creatures. His earliest Elvish dictionaries include the entry ORK, orc, meaning monster, ogre, demon, together with orkindi and ogress. He sometimes used the plural form orki in his early texts. Orcs are of human shape and of varying size. In The Hobbit, they are called goblins, though Thorin's elvish sword from Gondolin is named as Orcrist, goblin cleaver, but the goblins called it simply biter. They are depicted as ugly and filthy with a taste for human flesh. They are fanged, bow-legged, and long-armed. Some have dark skin as if burned. Most are small and avoid daylight. J.R.R. Tolkien wrote that his orcs were influenced by the goblins in George MacDonald's 1872 The Princess and the Goblin. According to the Monster Manual, orc tribes are fiercely competitive, and when they meet, it is 75% likely that they will fight each other unless a strong leader is on hand to keep them from doing so. Being bullies, the stronger will always intimidate and dominate the weaker. If goblins are near, for example, and orcs are strong enough, they will happily bully them. Orcs dwell in places where sunlight is dim or non-existent, for they hate the light. In full daylight, they must deduct 1 from their dice rolls to hit opponents, but they see well even in total darkness. Orc lairs are underground 75% of the time. In an above-ground village 25% of the time. Orcs are cruel and hate living things in general. They particularly hate elves and will always attack them in preference to other creatures. They take slaves for work, food, and entertainment, but not elves, whom they kill immediately. Orcs are accomplished tunnelers and miners. They note new or unusual constructions underground 35% of the time and spot sloping passages 25% of the time. The majority of orcs speak Goblin, Hobgoblin, and Ogre in addition to the languages of orcs and lawful evil. Orcs appear particularly disgusting because their coloration, brown or brownish green with a bluish sheen, highlights their pinkish snouts and ears. Their bristly hair is dark brown or black, sometimes with tan patches. Even their armor tends to be unattractive, dirty and often a bit rusty. Orcs favor unpleasant colors in general. Their garments are in tribal colors, as are shield devices or trim. They live for approximately 40 years.